All right, welcome back everybody to NVision Self. So we're back and we're going to cover the next two shows talking about business. And let's get in a little bit more in depth into the subject of business. Before we get into that though, last week I did promise you to tell you the timeline when we went from 14 to 15-hour work weeks to an 8-hour work week. And that's maybe something we can cover in one of the other shows more in depth, but it's not a strict date. It was a timeline starting in around 1880 all the way through the 1970s throughout the world. And I can get into the countries and things like that, but it was quite a big of a movement. So that's how we came to an 8-hour workday. However, and unfortunately, especially in the United States, we're creeping back up past 40 hours because I keep hearing things such as there's no such thing as a 40-hour work week anymore. Now we're working 44, 45, and etc. But that's something we can touch up on another show, because I believe that is a very, very important subject, especially in nowadays business and how it's going to affect moving forward. So today we're going to talk about a combination of business and a little bit of leadership inside that business. And to do that, we're going to talk about I would say a controversial figure throughout history is Genghis Khan. Or as he was known before that, Temujin Khan. Or even before that, he was known as Temujin. And the reason why it's a controversial figure, because to many, he was a bloodthirsty barbarian that inflicted million of casualties and horrid deaths to people. To others, he was a revolutionary, a visionary. So let's take a look at the visionary part, because most of us, what we know Genghis Khan for is his conquest of combining all of the tribes in the steppes all the way into China. And for those of you who thinks he also invaded, what was Kiev and Rus at the time, that is incorrect. That was another Khan, a relative of his after his death. And we can get into that a little bit later. So let's talk about Temujin and who he was. So he was born poor. He had nothing. His step tribe, abandoned him with his mother. They had to scrape. They have to survive. And you could look up, histories about him and things like that. But let's look at it as he is growing up, as he is able to kind of start to consolidate power and how it works with local businesses. So one of the things that was huge about him is once he started to consolidate power, the steppe tribes, they used to go back and forth in a warfare. We raid you. We pillage as much as we can, then you regroup, you come back and do the same to us. It's like a very silly game of tag. Well, Temujin at that time said, this is idiotic. I don't want to do that because I don't want to be constantly exposed to weakness. And that came in a form of a raid that he did with as we could call him, his sire, somebody he was serving under, which was Ong Khan, when they went after the Tartars on the behest of the Jurchen tribe. So what happened was, as they raided the Tartars, he understood that there was way too much pillaging going on. There's just, the system is broken. Some people are getting things, some people are not getting things. So what he started to understand and what he started to do, he wanted a system where the top and the elite were not getting everything, and not everything is based on your lineage. He wanted a system where you would get through merit, a system where you could advance to the ranks of anything, military or social status, through the merit. So if you're born into a family that pushes you through, but you're worthless, then he had no time for you. It's starting to sound a little familiar in our current business world. What he wanted is based on skill and based on ability. And what happened was many of the other tribes and families started to flock toward him. While on the opposite end, his blood brother, which was Gemukam, he was more for the aristocracy because he was born into a family and into a name. As everybody started flocking closer and closer to Temujin, What he came up with is a system as they would raid a tribe. Instead of pillaging while you're raiding, what he would do, he would achieve a complete victory. Then everything would be looted, put into a big pile, and then everything would be distributed. And everybody would get a piece of it. However, a small part of it was distributed to a family who lost a warrior or lost a father. So that way, the warriors, when they went to war or a battle, they knew that their family would be taken care of. And the reason why Temujin did that is he didn't want anybody to end up like him when his father was killed. And he had to fend on his own. So this is where we come to when we look at things as his conquest and why he was so highly successful and why his warriors were trained, even to the point when he was betrayed and he was miles away from all of his followers, and he was able to gather a host of 10,000s of warriors to ride with him. It's because of that loyalty, because he provided a system when it's based on merit, based on skills, not based on birth. So let's take a look at how does that apply to current business. Let's forget the bloodthirsty conquest and everything, and let's look at just the system of what's happening in the business right now. We have a plethora, let's use the word plethora. We have a plethora of our so-called bosses in business and higher-ups and CEOs and current management that is impotent. And I literally mean impotent because they have no idea how to lead. We have no idea how to promote people based on merit. We say that we do, but it is... the system is disabled. The system is broken in 90% of the businesses. And most people ask me, well, how can you pull a number such as 90%? Take a look around you. When was the last time you see a business that actually promoted based on merit, an actual merit? What most people would try to say, they would say, well, you haven't run a successful business. How do you know? Well, when you run businesses for other people and they're successful, and the other person, all they do is sign your paycheck, then guess what? They're not running the business. The employees are running the business. So let's take a look how something like that can be used in current day and age. If we take a look at our management, a lot of them they went to school, okay, or they've been promoted. And they have no idea how to lead other people, how to inspire them, because they're never out there in the front lines. They're never out there to do certain things. So when you look at somebody like Temujin, he was always out. He's always out on the raids. He was always learning. He was always leading. He was always having that iron fist. No matter how much it was, he always made everything equal for everybody. Now, some people did take a bigger piece because based on merit. But right now, everything is on name-by-name basis. In businesses that I was in businesses that I see, when we look at the CEOs of certain companies, they pop in and they go, we should be doing this. I think. Stop thinking. Jump in the water and swim and then tell me, what does that need to be done? You're the leader, right? You're the person that's supposed to lead us into battle. Right now, you're sitting on top of your, in your alabaster towers and trying to figure out, why or how do I need to give more money to my shareholders and forgetting the people who built you up. When you look at Temujin, and when you look and you think, why was his conquest was so successful? There was definitely a brutal aspect to it. And one of it is, whenever they would conquer a city or a nation, they would integrate most of the populace into their society. However, the only part of society they had no use for is aristocracy. People who were rich, and he was riding out on everybody else. Genghis Khan felt like they offered nothing at all. Now, that is an extreme view, but when you look at today's day and age, most of our CEOs and most of our managers offer nothing at all to the company. They don't even sign the checks anymore. Most of them got there not because of their hard work, or they did get there when the company was just started and they just kind of propelled upwards. And we have so many people on the ground level or mid-level that are much better leaders. I mean, even when you take a look at Jemuka and you take a look at Temujin at the times when they were going at each other's throat, Why did most people follow Temujin? Because he gave a prospect of not being stopped because of your lineage, but because of your merit. And most of the companies right now, and I'm pretty much asking the management, the CEO, the upper up, the business owners, take a look at your company. You have people who are way better and way more of leaders than who your current leadership is. Some of you business owners are sitting there going like, well, so-and-so has been with us for such a long time. Well, so does cancer. Cancer stays with you for a while, doesn't it? That's a crappy thing to, compare it to. But you got to cut that thing out, right? You got to kill that off or it'll kill you. Why can't you do that with your current people? Because you have rapport with them? Really? I've been in businesses when the management is supposed to stay all the way until the end and they leave 4 or 5 hours before their time. And the business owners just sit there, well, that's them. I've been in businesses where leadership is at the lowest level. People who are on part-time, they're leading better than the leaders who are on full-time and salary, right? So all of these things we have to look at as business owners. We have to make the hard decisions. I think the hardest decision, I know the hardest decision for a business owner is to keep themselves busy. And sometimes to keep ourselves busy, here's what we need to do. We need to take out our jacket, right? We need to take that thing off and then jump in and start working, right? Take a look at what your people are feeling, what they're going through. When Genghis Khan completed his, let's say, conquest, or when he put all the tribes together under one rule and called it the Great Mongol Nation, he went into the neighboring countries that was around him. And one of the things he learned is they had cities, they had walls, they had things like that. So the Mongols had to learn siege from the ground up. And he was there, he would take notes. He would work with his people. And that's how they became so proficient. I don't see most of our leadership and most of our CEOs when they get into the new field or they get past a certain mark where now they have to work extra. I don't see many CEOs jumping up there and most business owners jumping out there and going like, well, we broke this number. Now I have no idea what to do. But you know what? I'm going to read a couple of books. I'm going to read a few things about leadership and business. I'm going to read some 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, or I'm going to take a look at Anthony Hopkins. And I'll be great at sales and everything like that. Unfortunately not. Our landscape is constantly changing. And now where all you had to do was, this tribal warfare, now you have cities, now you have armies 4 or 5 times your size. So for your commanders to do something, you got to be there. You got to take the notes, right? You're the leader. But we don't want to do things like that, right? Why would we? Some of the businesses are super successful. And I mean by super successful, they're financially successful. Will I call you a successful businessman? I don't think I can. Because when I compare you to somebody like Genghis Khan, not only did he grow, his entire nation grew with him. Because when he came back from his conquest, leather was replaced with silk. Everybody was living no longer in poverty. Everybody was living lush. He gave everybody respect, at least in his nation and the people he integrated. We could talk about the brutality a little bit later on, but let's take a look at what he was thinking, right? A revolutionary. Women had a right. They wore in his Kurultai, which was his, democratic council, so to say, right? Not many nations at that time in the 1200s did that. So when you take a look at our current business models, we're failing that. How can somebody in 1200s figure that out? And we, in the 21st centuries, are standing, in where I'm from, we have a saying, we're staring at something like a goat and a brand new gate. We have no idea. Or in English, it's a deer in a headlight, right? We're looking at it and going, what do we need to do? Why do we need to do it? Or we're just blind to understanding things. Or maybe because it's greed. Or maybe because you have 4 or 5 businesses running, you sit back and you go, I don't really care what's going on. I'm getting money. I guarantee you'll fail. I have a very good friend of mine, and he has, who he now calls an uncle. The gentleman is very successful, and he said something very interesting to him. He said, I have certain businesses that require a certain skill of a worker. I can't replace them. Or if I can, it'll take me too long. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take care of them, not at the standard. I'm going to take care of them at higher standard. And the moment he started doing that, his entire business shot through the sky. It is painful. It is growth because you have to put away. If your income is at X, you might have to take a step back. You might have to invest into your people. And I know it's hard. So this is what I'm explaining to you. And let me tell you some things that leadership can bring to. So before Temujin became Genghis Khan, before he was giving the title of Genghis Khan, the ruler of all Mongols, he tried to get one of his sons to marry one of the largest Khans in the Mongol nation, which was Ong Khan. He was growing old, so one of his sons was going to marry one of Genghis Khan's daughters at the time. Ong Khan did not want to do that at the behest of his own son. So he tried to lay a trap for Temujin. And when Temujin realized, it was too late, so he scattered his personal guard and he rode off. He had no idea when he reunited with some of his personal guard, they were broken. There was nobody left. And he was miles away from his people. So he sent out messengers. He sent out riders. He told all of the people that were following him, that was mile apart from each other, to gather at one place. And to his surprise, they did. Tens of thousands of horsemen followed him. Not only that, as they rode to Ong Khan to attack him for this, travesty, for this betrayal, there were people in the tribes that followed him that left him fresh horses so they would never stop riding. Just think about it. Tens of thousands of horses left just so the riders could dismount and go again. That is leadership. That is following on the other level, because not only did he promise them a prospect of something, he followed through. And that's the difference when you're a leader and you push on merit versus a leader who pushes, well, they've been with us for a while. Well, I believe this. I think this. No, man, get out there. Get out there and work. Get out there and see. One of the things I do want to say, this one is a little tough. And it's something I'm sure I'll be struggling with as we grow, as I grow our own business in NVision Martial Arts, is how do you catch those leaders? Because they see you're coming, right? You come in to check out your own business and all of a sudden everybody's working. Your manager is running out. In my business, it's going to be coming in and seeing everybody in martial arts uniform, right? How do I know my manager or the gentleman or lady that's supposed to be running my school always puts on their uniform, or only when I'm there? So you got to learn to read through people. Or how about you listen to your customers? How about you listen to about what person they're talking about constantly? And they just pop in unannounced. Not in the beginning of your business, but like midday, just pop in. Regular clothes, nothing. And see what's going on. See where your management is at. See where your leader is at. Say nothing. Ask your employees not to say that you're there. And then just walk out. Do it again 3 or 4 times. And see if it's a reoccurring pattern. And then act. Maybe have a conversation. Then terminate them. I mean, that sucks, right? They've been with you for many years. How many businesses lose some of their best employees? There's a good saying, and we might get bleeped out, right? But there's an ass for every seat, but some asses should never be replaced. Be careful. Because when a good employee leaves, it's not a one-for-one trade. You might have to hire 3 or 4. Or maybe 5 or 6 or 7 or 8, because you never know the people you hire, they may be terrible. So think about things like that. I'm not saying be like Genghis Khan and go on a brutal conquest, but think about his revolutionary methods that he did. Promote based on merit, actual merit. Look at your people. Don't look at the time they spent in your business. Look at the quality they bring into your business. Check on your people sometimes. Out of the goodness, just come in. Sometimes jump in and work. See what it is to work with people. And I'm not talking about showing in and working one time. No, because everybody starts acting around you then certain, like, oh my God, the boss is here. I don't know what to do. Make it a habit. Pop in 3-4 times a week. The reason is you want your employees to be comfortable around you, because when people are comfortable around you, that's when their true nature starts coming out. Not your management. I'm talking about your employees. But then you'll also see your management. Ones that act normal and natural around you, great. Now you see their quality, their character. The way I want to finish this, guys, is that I'm always asking for people to leave comments or to leave their opinions, because I'm sure there are people who have opinions that do not coincide with mine. And I'd love to have that conversation. As a matter of fact, I would love to have some of you guys on the show and we can have a discussion, because it's always great to see another person's opinion on the matter. Once again, guys, think about certain things. Become leaders. Become decent human beings. And your business will rise. Until that time, I hope to see everybody on the mats. And I'll see you next time.